Welcome to Unmute Yourself, the podcast. I'm Nancy Medoff, author, speaker, and coach.
And I'm Beth Knaus, creative copywriter and the owner of That's a Spade Copywriting Services. We are done being polite and ready to get real about confidence, boundaries, and self-respect, both personally and in the workplace.
Beth and I first met when we collaborated on the best-selling communication handbook for women, Unmute Yourself and Speak Up to Stand Out. Now we are amplifying our message and taking it on the road with Unmute Yourself, the podcast. Warning, there may be, no, who are we kidding, will be some adult content. We have a bullshit button and we're not afraid to use it.
So buckle up, buttercups, because here we go.
And we're back.
Hey girl, hey.
Hey girl, hey.
Beat you.
We were so excited. We didn't know who was going to say hey girl, hey first. That's a first. It's been a while.
It has been since we got together to record some fabulous episodes. First, I would like to shout out to Hong Kong, Australia, and Tanzania. How about that?
Stop it.
Yep, I was on there this morning.
Hong Kong, Tasmania,
and Australia.
We are so global. I don't even know what to do with myself. That's amazing. So shout out to our non-USers. And I would like to shout out to the men. We might have said this the last podcast, but a lot of my male colleagues and friends, I have a lot that have been listening and posting and sharing. By the way, if you haven't, please go ahead and like us on the Apple podcast, but only if you like us. And I'm assuming if you're listening, you do. And they're really loving what we're talking about. So, it just reinforces our belief that sometimes we get in our own heads and we think that our issues are unique to women and they're not.
Right. And hang in there, men, because we definitely have some ideas down the road that will really interest you. So, and women too, of course.
Yes, we have stuff coming. We just want to make sure we get our
facts straight
in a row. And I just use the word just. I'm sure many of you out there are shaking your finger at me. I did just use it. Oh, I just used it twice, 3 times. Anyway.
I went to use it in an email the other day and I was like, delete.
I love it. Hey girl, hey, I love it. All right. So you ready to jump in?
I think so.
Okay. We are going to, this podcast is going to be about self-image or body confidence and its impact on your life, your mental health, how you show up, your success. Did I miss anything?
No, I think you got it all. And I think it's a really great topic because, now that we're like back to the, what we're calling the new normal, we've all been home for a while and not really, we see each other on Zoom. Here we are, right?
Right.
Shoulders up, and not necessarily paying attention to our bodies, which is probably a great thing. And in fact, probably a great way to practice speaking, if you want to do that, right?
Practice what?
To practice a speaking thing, because you're from the shoulders up and you won't distract yourself with your full body. If it distracts you, which it shouldn't, and that's what we're going to talk about, right? But I feel like we've all just spent like a couple of years, and I know you haven't. Everyone but Nancy spent a couple of years wearing sweatpants to their Zoom meetings.
No, I did, except when I was presenting. But I'm glad you brought up the pandemic because this is very timely for me. During the pandemic, I was in the best shape of my life. I was working out twice a day, yoga every day, podcast walks everywhere. And since the quarantine ended, I have struggled to get back into a routine. And for a number of reasons over the past several months, I have gained what I would call a significant amount of weight. So I've gained 16 pounds over the past, let's say 3 months, maybe 4 months. And so when this episode was Beth's idea, we brainstorm ideas. So when she sent it over, I jumped all over it because it is real. It is a big deal. And it's a problem for women and men. So we want to drill down a little bit more on that and get under it and try to give a few tools for people to not let how you feel about how you look, and that could be your body, it could be your skin, it could be your hair, it could be if you have some kind of a disability, and not worry about how you are presenting affect your confidence, which is not a small task. So, okay, Beth, figure that out for everyone.
Figure that out. Okay, well, so for anybody who's on TikTok, there's this lovely young woman on there. Her name is Jax, Jax, if you want to follow her. And I don't know if this post went viral for her, but what happened was she wrote this song about body image because she had some eating disorders when she was younger. And it's really taken off because the song was about this specific type of figure that Victoria's Secret strategically advertised. And we all know what that figure looks like. So a young girl got up and sang it at school or like at a talent show or something. And I highly advise that you go and watch the TikTok because you'll get all these details that I'm really, skimming around. But it's become a thing. And Victoria's Secret, actually, they have contacted this girl, Jax, and said to her, oh, this is great, blah, blah, blah. And she's like, you know what? This is really nice that you sent me this letter, but this has been going on for years. And I do not want to be the face of a company who now all of a sudden is jumping on the attention I'm getting for writing this song. And I'm going to be the face of your We've Changed campaign. She's like, that was not the point for me. The point for me was to offer support and connect with younger girls who are going through what I went through. And I want them to feel comfortable with their bodies.
Okay, so I love all of this. So she's pretty popular. She was on American Idol, I guess.
Yeah.
And she's got a net worth of 1.5 million. I just Googled her. So she is not to be messed with. What was the response from the women, from the young girls?
Oh, she's got all kinds of comments, on the TikTok. I don't know how many she has, but and I think that the real issue is that 40 years ago this was going on. And so I'm going to assume that 40 years before that it was going on. And I think it was probably even worse, right? I mean, we've talked about generational cycles and societal norms that get passed on that don't serve us anymore. But because we have mothers and grandmothers and other generational people around us, that sometimes we can't help but be pulled back into those things. And it's just horrible that we're still judging each other. In fact, I'm going to say this is going to be horrible truth here, but we'll talk about truth another time. There's a show on TV called Cheaters. Have you ever seen this show, Nancy?
Oh, is it on Bravo? It sounds like it's on Bravo.
Horrible. It's like a bad car accident, just cannot look away. And it's like someone in a relationship who thinks someone is cheating. Joey Greco from he was from one of those boy bands, used to be the host. And now it's a guy whose name is Clark Gable. Just to give you so they have someone come on and they say, I think my so-and-so is cheating and I don't know why. So my husband was, having this guilty indulgence, with this show the other day. And this gentleman was on and he was like, my girlfriend went to the gym. She lost all this weight. I think she's cheating. Sure enough, she was. And, then there's this confrontation. They show them all this proof that the person's cheating and then they go and confront them and it's always a mess. And so he said to her, I can't believe you. I loved you when you were fat. And it was like, oh, you must have been one of the first apostles, you good-hearted human, you. Seriously.
I want to respond to that. Well, because, okay, so I'm going to bring it back to me again, just because it's timely. Okay. I said to Danny, how could you have not said anything to me? Which is somewhat related, but not really related. So he, because he doesn't care. He's not judging how I look. He's whatever, because he's my partner. But you mentioned that we're judging each other. And my first instinct was, are we judging ourselves? Mm-hmm. Like if somebody's up on stage, I'm not judging them. I'm really not. I'm not. So are we judging each other about how we look, or are we judging each other about how we're presenting ourselves? Now, if somebody's on stage and they're meek, or if somebody's presenting themselves in a way that I don't agree with, I will judge them. But I don't necessarily judge them for what they look like. Or maybe I do and I'm just in denial about it.
So, and maybe judgment isn't always the right word, because there are definitely people who judge based on how you look. There's no two ways about it, right? But like for me, when I see someone, it makes me think about how do I look, right? It makes me think, do I look tall? Do I look short? Do I look chubby? Do I look, are my
Yeah.
legs too thin? Are
Yeah.
my, well,
Yeah.
I don't know that I say that too often, but, it makes you turn around and say, oh, well, that person looks like that. What do I look like? Right? It's
Mhm.
not a mirror, but
That's
we
so
almost,
interesting. Yeah, but yet we all do it. Like somebody with a great body will walk, or an athletic body will walk by me while I'm walking, and I'll be like, "Do I look like her?" And I'll say to whoever I'm with, "Do I look like that? What, what is wrong with us?
yeah,
Can we
yeah.
blame Victoria's Secret?"
I think we can partly blame
Yeah.
Victoria's Secret or, like, you have a certain body type and sometimes whatever is hanging in the store at that time does not suit you. And then what do you do? Right? If you want to be fashionable, I mean, we know when we're younger, we buy those things that don't necessarily look the best on us, but it's what our friends are wearing and blah, blah, blah. But as you get older, I think that's a key thing to learn, right? Is that's really nice that that's the hot style, but that doesn't suit me. It doesn't serve me. And especially if you're going to be speaking in front of people, right? Like what colors do you look best in?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry if, neon green is the fashionable color. I am not wearing that.
Right. Right. Yeah. So that's one of the reasons why I wanted to talk about this, because when I have to get on stage, and I have to get on stage in front of hundreds or thousands of people, and I can't not do it. I can't cancel. So am I going to try to squeeze myself into my sausage black leggings, or am I going to own it and say, okay, I have to go buy some new clothes? And I had a speaking engagement a month ago in front of a large group, and that's what I did. I went out and I got something bigger, and sure, it sucked and I was kind of bummed, but at least I wasn't walking on stage with my muffin top showing and bulging out of my clothes, because then I wouldn't have been comfortable and then I wouldn't have projected confidence. So instead, I owned what was going on and I said, okay, dress yourself in a way that you feel good. So, and that doesn't mean squeezing yourself into clothes that fit you 2 years ago. That means looking professional and making sure that you are comfortable. And that's always what it comes back to, is what are you going to be most comfortable in? Because if you're self-conscious about what you're wearing, that's all anybody's going to remember. And that's going to really impact, it's going to impact how you present. It's going to impact your impact. If
Yes.
you're hesitant, or I don't know. Yeah, and it's interesting because when I jokingly said, who can we blame? I think this has a very big deal to do with how we were raised. How, your household, I mean. I don't mean what generation. I mean how you were raised, who raised you. And I remember, I'll joke with my sister, and for those of you who've read my book, my sister is part of my origin story. I would always say I'm a size 8 shoe, and I would buy size 8 shoes, and I would never be able to wear them because I am a size 9. I don't know why, but I didn't want to say I was a size 9 shoe. I gave my sister all of my shoes because I bought shoes that were too small and I couldn't wear them.
Mm.
So fast forward, I was getting married and I bought a wedding dress. I don't know if anybody knows this story. My wedding dress that I bought was too small. I had to buy another one because I thought that if I want to look beautiful at my wedding, I got married when I was 50 years old. And I thought I have to be in a size 8 wedding dress, which, by the way, if anybody knows, wedding dresses run notoriously small. Many, many people buy 2 or 3 sizes up. I'm like, nope, I am buying a size 8 wedding dress. I bought it. I told the woman that I'm like, nope, it doesn't fit now, but it will fit. It will fit. It will fit. 2 months before my wedding, I had to get another dress. What kind of delusion was I under? But that was 30, 40 years of pathology of thinking, well, I want to be a size 8, so I'm going to buy a size 8 and I'm going to squeeze into the size 8. I want to be a size and that's dress. I want to be a size 8 shoe because I think smaller feet are better for whatever reason. Like, who cares about what your shoe size is? And then be uncomfortable. So I think the message I want people to get is that A, everybody feels this way. And B, once you get over yourself and just buy the bigger shirt, or buy the bigger pants or shoes, or, wear a hat if your hair isn't, whatever you need to do, it's going to impact how you feel about yourself. You're going to feel better, you're going to look better, and you're going to project better.
Yeah. So I'm going to say a little bit about me and this, because I actually never had a weight issue growing up. And I'm sure I've said it on here before. I was raised by my dad. He never really said much to me. It wasn't like I had someone at home going, oh, that's too tight. Oh, that's too short. Or that's, whatever. And I just never struggled with my weight. I always was okay with my body. I didn't really pay too much attention to it. And then, I walked around for a very long time shopping in the juniors department and wondering, why do we even have that Mrs. department? I mean, what is that even for? I mean, if you remember when there was juniors and Mrs.
Yeah.
And then I had children. And then I learned that the Mrs. clothes had much larger waistbands. Because your body goes through things and your body changes, and these are things that you choose to do. And to be honest, you go from having a girl's body to a woman's body. And I'm not saying that only happens to people who have babies, because I think it happens in general, right? Things that are out of our control, hormones or
Whatever. Life.
whatever, right? Life happens and bodies change, and men's bodies change, right? And we talk about it all the time, and you don't hear men talk about it. And I think that must be really, really difficult, because, I mean, think about it. We're, kind of pressured to look a certain way, generally from a certain age. And many men have someone who dresses them into an older age.
This is so interesting. Because
and they don't think about it. Then they have to go off and buy clothes. And if they're not comfortable with their body, how does that work? That must be challenging, because then they're not sure how to get dressed in the first place, and they have to go off and do it. And I'm not saying there aren't men who have done that, but my 22-year-old son will come to me and say, does this look okay for my job interview? Can I wear this tie with this shirt? Do I, and I didn't really dress him. But that it's just different for them.
I think it is different for them. And it's interesting because my reference point, first of all, okay. So I have so much going on. So first of all, you have, I think a lot of them can get away with a lot more, right? So a guy can put on 10, 15 pounds,
yes,
maybe 10 pounds, and hide it easier, or they're not being judged as much, in my opinion. I have a lot of gay male friends, and as you're talking, I'm thinking about, oftentimes in the gay community, appearance is really, really important for the gay men. So, and they'll work out, always look great. It's a stereotype, but it's a stereotype because it's very common. So I wonder how it feels to be a gay man and to have that even more amplified, because they will work out. It's image is everything to a lot of my gay male friends. If they lose 5 pounds, they will absolutely take it off right away. I mean, I wonder how much it has to do with who they are versus who they're hanging around with, or versus what's happened to them in the past in terms of how they've dated and stuff like that. It's just really interesting because I'm recording this podcast on the Outer Cape. I'm 5 minutes from Provincetown, very gay community. And when you said men don't care how they look or don't care as much, the first thing I thought of was all the gay men I know that are at the gym 90 minutes a day on the, it's so important. So I wonder if that's about validation. So if I look good, I will feel validated, or I will feel more attractive, or I will attract who I want to attract. I don't know. It's interesting.
It is interesting. And I think, again, it comes to, it's almost similar to that. When I look at someone else, do I then look at myself and judge myself? are you dressing a certain way because you want other people to think you look good, or are you dressing a certain way because you feel good when you dress that way? Right? Like I get a lot of flack sometimes because I'm not a dress wearer. I don't feel good. I don't feel comfortable. I don't want to deal with undergarments. I don't, it's just uncomfortable.
Yep.
I would much rather wear a really sharp pair of trousers or dressier pants. And I just feel comfortable that way. And I know I present to people as very confident and happy and informed, as opposed to worrying about, oh, that strapless bra is down to my belly button, or, all the things we deal with stuff under our clothes.
Well, I would say if you put the dress on, you would feel less confident and
Right.
less.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's interesting. So you know what you're comfortable in, right?
Right.
Yeah. I'm just making that as a takeaway. So you know what you're comfortable in. Yeah, so it's interesting. Oftentimes, like I love a blazer and jeans. That was my uniform in the 80s. That was my uniform when I was in my 30s, 40s. Jeans and a blazer. Love it. And I will often ask someone that I'm speaking with, what's your dress code? And if I can, 100, that is my go-to. I am on top of the world. I have my belt that I love. And that every time is how I crush it. So I think when we get to the takeaways, that's going to be one of them, is to just know what you're comfortable in. Now, okay, so this is interesting. I have probably 12 or 14 pairs of jeans, and maybe 2 or 3 of them fit me.
Mm-hmm.
So over the years, I've acquired all these jeans. They may be fit for like a snapshot in time. Why haven't I got rid of them? Right? Why haven't I said, I don't know if I'm ever going to get back into that size again. And if I do, I can just buy some new jeans. So I'm just going to get rid of them. It's crazy. It's crazy. Literally 12 pairs of jeans, at least.
Yeah, I would bet that a good 90% of people have clothes in their closet that don't fit them. Why don't we let go of those things? Do we think we're going back there? Are we attached sentimentally to things that went on in our life or a time period where we wore those clothes? Like, what is it? What's the emotional connection to those clothes?
It's interesting. I think for me, it's, oh, I know I'm going to fit back into that again. And, I'm not blaming my mother, but it's because I watched her do that. I watched her do that. So that was normal for me. As a matter of fact, now I don't want anybody to judge my mom for this. I think it's a very impactful story. I was very overweight, probably in my 20s and 30s, teens and 20s. Lost 72 pounds when I turned 30, I think. I go to my mother's house with my jeans, my old jeans, and because they were my mother's size. And I said, here, I have some jeans for you. She said, oh, okay, honey, I'll put those upstairs in the closet and hold them for you. Okay, so do you fully understand the impact of this? I went from a 14 to a 6 or an 8, and my mother said, I'm going to go hold these for you.
Yeah, for when you fit them again.
For when you put the weight back on and have to wear these jeans again. And I remember I was very upset. I just left the jeans, turned around and walked out of the house. I'm like, I can't believe you just said that. She didn't even know. She didn't mean any harm by it.
Of course.
And that just goes back to, oh, I'm going to, first of all, that had an incredible impact on me, but also had it been the reverse, and had I gained weight and brought over the 8s and 6s for my sister, let's say, would they have said, we're going to hold these for you when you lose the weight?
Right.
I don't know. Like, why are we holding on to these things? Why can't we just be comfortable in the moment?
Exactly.
That to me is peace. And that to me is stepping into who you are and being comfortable with who you are. And that just brings so much more, okay, this is what I weigh right now. Okay. Or this is what's going on with my skin condition right now. Or, this is what's happening with whatever. It doesn't define who you are.
Right. Right.
And that's where I think people trip themselves up.
Right. Yeah. I think it's tough.
It's very tough. So fun fact about Victoria's Secret. I just wanted to get back to that. because I'm like, oh, I wonder how many supermodels have eating disorders. So I Googled it. I checked the Google, and 40 to 65% of supermodels have an eating disorder. So imagine you're in a profession where over half of you
Have an eating disorder.
have an eating disorder. So now go back to the Victoria's Secret. I'm not saying they all had eating disorders or whatever. At society and the models, half of them are making themselves throw up or are anorexic. And that is what we are projecting onto the world. And that is what we are, but we're buying it. We're believing it. We're like, yeah, that's, you know, up to a certain age or up till you get to a certain point. But that's what the young kids or the young women are aspiring to. Okay, if you want to look like that, you have to purge. Now
Right.
you want to look like that?
Right.
It's pretty scary.
It is scary because you get really, really sick. So I shared with you earlier, my daughter went to Mass Art and for a degree in fashion design. And I remember probably somewhere in the middle, like either her second or third year, she was drawing these models and was thinking about possibly creating athletic wear or something like that, which nobody else was doing. Everybody else was, worried about wedding gowns and haute couture and all that sort of stuff. And she was doing that. And so she made her models look really toned and kind of cut, right? Not big, not like they were weightlifters or anything like that. And the teacher told her it wasn't acceptable, that they were too big, that it wasn't realistic for the modeling sketches that they were doing, that she had to cut back.
It wasn't realistic. Think about it's not realistic.
Yeah, no, that's not what's happening in the fashion world.
Interesting. So did she change it?
No, she did not. I shouldn't say that. I think she may have altered a little bit, but she didn't go all the way to she pushed the envelope.
Yeah. One more story that ties into that before we go into the call to action. So have you noticed that Athleta is showing a lot of plus size models lately? I don't know if you've noticed. So I get all the catalogs. They have a very prominent advertising in their marketing. They have models that are overweight. I'm not saying just big and athletic. I'm saying they're overweight. They're at a weight that is not what is considered healthy for their bodies. No judgment there. I'm just saying that's what they have and look like. And it's a big campaign and they're selling a lot of clothes. And I was talking to a friend of mine. I'm revealing so many truths in this episode. I was talking to my friend who's a trainer, and I said, personal trainer. I said, yeah, I don't really want them. That doesn't resonate with me. And she's like, why not? I said, because I want to look at people who are fit. And she said, well, they are fit. I go, they're not fit. They're not fit. They're overweight. She goes, but that doesn't mean they're not fit. They could be healthy. They could have a different body type. So here I am advocating for, don't be upset, step into who you are, own your truth. And I'm like, yeah, no, I don't want to look at those models. I want to look at the ones that are, super toned, super buff, and that I will probably never look like again. So I had to call myself out on my own bullshit.
Right. And that's why we have a button.
So I'm going to try it. I don't think that our podsters are going to be able to hear it.
Come on now, that ain't even bullshit. That's horse shit.
Oh, did it work?
Good one.
Okay, yeah. So I think, I'm just speaking for myself. I can talk about body confidence. I can share what works for me. I can say whatever I want. At the end of the day, I need to be careful of my own biases, my own unconscious bias. That was an unconscious bias. I'm like, oh my God, and after that conversation, I realized that this is something I grew up with and it's something I need to be aware of so I can walk the talk.
Yes. Yeah. I think everybody has that, right? Yeah. Everybody has it in some way, in some level.
So, I have a few tips. Do you have any recommendations for our podsters on what to do when you're not feeling body confident or appearance confident? Because it's not necessarily your body, it could be something else. Any tips on how they can overcome that?
Yeah, may sound like a little bit of a weird tip, but I worked in the beauty industry for a very long time. I had a hair salon at one point, and I had 10 women who worked for me, and they were in the mirror all day long, hair, makeup, adjusting clothes, changing belts. I mean, they could look like a totally different person when they left than the one who walked in the morning. And I was not that person. And you're working in front of that mirror all day long, looking from behind your client in the mirror,
Right.
do your work. And there are days at home when if I don't feel great, I just stay away from the mirror. I just don't look at the mirror because I know it's not me. It's my perspective of what I'm seeing because I feel crappy about something else.
Yep.
So I think that's part of it. But I also think that you have to recognize these triggers, right? Like listen to that story your mother just told you. So I don't really know her well, but I'm going to assume that she did that because she's had her own experiences.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
Not being confident with her body. And so that's not your issue.
Right.
And to really look at the triggers that you have and why are you having them? And are you causing them? Is someone in your life causing them? Because they're not serving you.
I agree. They're not serving you. I think that's perfect. So understanding that they're not serving you, which is just accepting what's happening and taking action around that. So what I do when this happens to me, when I'm going through a phase, I can fluctuate 5 to 15 pounds over any given month, not month, but anyway. One is remember that no one cares, right? No one cares. They're not there to see what I look like. They're there to hear me speak. 2 is to buy a bigger size. And if you're upset about it, keep the tag on. Buy a bigger size, keep the tag on. And if you end up not wearing it, you can return it. That's it. And then the last is to have a go-to, know what you're comfortable with. So mine is my jeans and my blazer. I'm sure that's a lot of people's, but if there's a black skirt, if you like a black skirt and a blouse or, whatever the case is, same for the men, if it's a vest and jeans, whatever that may be, know what that is. And whenever possible, go to your go-to because that's what you're going to be comfortable with. And then the issue of what you look like is going to be less of an issue because you're comfortable. And if you're comfortable, you're good, right?
Yes, absolutely.
All right. Yeah, I think that a lot of what we talked about ties into really just being comfortable with who you are at the moment. And we're going to talk about that on our next podcast, which is about kind of owning your truth and just stepping into who you are. So hopefully this is a good preamble for the next podcast. And people can, maybe some of our listeners can try some of the tactics and let us know how they went.
Yes. Yes, that would be fabulous.
So follow Beth at, what's your Instagram handle?
My Instagram handle is That's a Spade. And
That's a Spade.
Yeah, that's what it is on Facebook.
All one word. I'm Nancy_Medoff. And then on LinkedIn, it's either Beth Knaus, Knaus, or Nancy Medoff, Medoff. We would love to hear, we'd love to hear what's resonating with you all. It's funny because the episodes that we love aren't necessarily the episodes that our podsters love. And the episodes that we're like, that wasn't that great, we get the most comments on. So let us know what you think. Let us know what you'd like to hear about. We would love to talk about what's on your mind. And we look forward to hearing you on the next, or seeing you on the next podcast. You hearing us on the next podcast.
There you go.
Maybe I'll be less caffeinated on that one.
Maybe.
Okay. Bye, girl. Bye.
Bye, girl. Bye.
That's a wrap on another episode of Unmute Yourself, the podcast. We hope you found value in today's podcast. We hope you were able to take a little time for yourself and perhaps think about how you're showing up.
And thank you for all of the great feedback we've been receiving. We'd love to hear more from you about what you think, the tactics you're using every day to speak up, and anything else you'd like to hear about on future episodes of Unmute Yourself, the podcast. You can contact us through our websites. Nancy can be found at nancymedoff.com, And Beth can be found at that'saspade.com. Or you can email us at unmuteyourselfthepodcast, all one word, @gmail.com.
We will see you next week. And until then, keep speaking up.